Hi there. Thought I would talk to you tonight about how to put together a low-carb lasagna. I started by browning about 2 pounds of ground beef. I added to that a couple of cans of tomatoes that I pureed myself, and they were tomatoes actually found for 99 cents a can at Aldi's, and we've talked about those before. I'm thickening it here and thickening it in a larger pot. So the idea is just to cook some of the water out and let it get thicker. And please forgive my dirty cooktop. I've been cooking several dishes tonight. I also added, in addition to the tomatoes that I pureed just in my magic bullet, I also added a half of a box of the Pomi strained tomatoes, and that makes it a little bit thicker too. And like I said, just a half a box or so. So anyway, the water's cooking down. That's getting thicker. I did put some in this pan just to try and get the water out more easily, and that is 2 pounds of ground beef. I think it was 80-20 fat, and you can see I didn't drain it. So I put a nice shallow layer of the meat inside. I've taken a zucchini and I cut it up, and I just cut it. It's not perfect, but I just cut it in strips as thin as I could with a regular knife. And I'm going to take these strips and just lay them on top of the meat sauce, just kind of like I would with a regular lasagna. So I'm going to cover that up, and I'm not doing very well with this. I probably should have put my stuff differently. But anyway, I'm not going to make it terribly thick. It doesn't have to cover it completely. But that's one zucchini in a fairly large 9x13 pan. Okay, so as you can see, I took some ricotta cheese and I just kind of flattened it out and put it on top of the zucchini. It doesn't need to be perfect because the beauty of the ricotta is that it will melt and look even nicer when you get everything together. So on top of the ricotta, I like to put a few more seasonings, even though I do have seasonings in the tomato sauce. I sprinkle a little more Italian seasoning over. There's not an exact science to this. We like a lot of oregano and basil, and so I also sprinkle some basil. And I'm using dried herbs. If you have fresh, that's even better. And with the summertime coming up, some of us will probably have fresh, but there's some fresh. And let's see, that was oregano. And I'm going to put a little basil. And when you make your own sauce, there's not sugar or salt. And so sometimes you might want to add some sugar or salt to the sauce. So anyway, I'm going to put a few herbs here. And then on top of this, I'm going to add some Italian cheese. And I have Parmesan, I have a 6-cheese Italian, and I have a mozzarella. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of that on top of all of this mixture. Nice thick layer of cheese on top of that ricotta, and now I'm going to put another layer of meat. And I'm just going to sprinkle on there pretty liberally. Okay, so after you get the meat sauce on there, then you're going to do another layer of zucchini. And again, it doesn't need to be perfect. Just cut it the best you can. Sometimes shorter pieces are easier to get thinner. But again, once it's all together, no one's going to know the difference. They'll just enjoy it. I have made it before where I cut off the green pieces because I have a son that if he sees the green, he says there's not supposed to be green in lasagna, and he gets highly offended. So there you go. You do want to make, that's a little on the thick side. You do want to make sure that it's thin enough that it's going to cook thoroughly. And I'm actually going to serve this tomorrow night. So I'm putting it together ahead of time. So anyway, it shouldn't be a problem as far as the cooking of it. I don't have to worry about it being quite as thin as if I was going to try and cook it tonight. It'll cook a little bit just from the heat of the sauce of everything I've put together. And like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect, but it's all in there. Let me turn that over, try and hide the green, and I'll pick the green out of his bits. Now, I'm going to come back. I'm going to put the rest of the ricotta cheese, and yes, I'm using full-fat ricotta made with whole milk. I'm going to put the rest of that on top, and then I'll put more shredded cheese, some Parmesan, some mozzarella, and then I've got sauce I'll cover the whole thing with, right? So more mozzarella, more ricotta, and probably a little more mozzarella than that because I don't think that's enough. And then I'm going to cover the whole thing with the last bit of sauce. Okay, so maybe that's enough cheese. And now I'm going to take just what's left of the sauce and pour it over. Notice I've got some Parmesan cheese, and I'll put the Parmesan cheese on before I end up baking it tomorrow. Love the way that makes a nice crust on the top. So just going to pour this over. So there you go. Poured the sauce over it, and it's about to overflow my pan. I didn't do a great job, but it's a lasagna, and you can see how it's layered up, just a regular lasagna with noodles, with the meat and the cheese and zucchini noodles. So I'll let that cool, cover it up, put it in the fridge. Tomorrow when I get home from work, I'll pop it in the oven at 350 until everything's nice, hot, and bubbly. Probably 30 to 45 minutes. I'll sprinkle some Parmesan cheese on it toward the end, and it'll be dinner, leftovers. This is such a large, thick lasagna that I may end up even freezing some of it, but it'll probably serve dinner for Tuesday night, lunches for David and Grace, and maybe myself later in the week. All right, hope you enjoy.